We're talking about sight reading today. It's a tip that's incredibly simple, so some of it might seem really obvious, but I do see a lot of musicians not doing this, even though it's something really simple and kind of basic that will really help you be able to sight read pieces a whole lot better. Hey, I'm Isaac Schanno Johnson. If you don't know me, I'm a musician, composer, producer, and I make videos about all that fun stuff, music composition, music production, so make sure you hit that subscribe button to see videos like this in the future. Look through the music before you play it. I know, that sounds pretty obvious, like duh, I'm gonna check through the music before I play it, buddy. But I have very specific things that I look for when I do this myself if I'm sight reading something, and I tell my students to go through this list basically before they sight read anything new. So here is the list. I'll put it up here. You look for the time signature, the key signature, any key changes, any meter changes, any repeat symbols, including da capos, del segnos. You look for repeated ideas or repeated music. You look for familiar chord progressions. You look for accidentals, and you look for what sections will be difficult and easy. That's the list. And the reason I like to do this is you want to have an idea of what's coming up before you have to actually play it, right? You want to be able to get your hands in position, fingers in position before you actually have to play this stuff. So just taking a minute to look through and get an idea generally of what to expect before you play something can help a whole lot more than I think it might seem, because you're not really doing much, you're not really learning the music, but you're getting a very general overview of this stuff so that you're not seeing it completely new. It's almost like you're looking through it once really quickly so that the first time you play it is actually the second time you're looking at all of these things. It gives you sort of a kind of an overview of just what to expect and when to expect it, right? When I do this, by the way, I notice I play and sight read so much better and so much more comfortably, so much less anxiously. I'm less nervous if I take a minute and do this every time I have to read a piece, especially if it's at a rehearsal or in person, right? If I've had to do that quite a lot, right? For auditions, or maybe you're called to sub for a church gig. They don't have the music electronically. They don't have it to send to you. So you kind of got to just sight read when you're there. You don't have much of a choice, right? But the times I've had to do that, and I remember to flip through the music, I play so much better, and I'm so much more confident and comfortable playing because I feel like I know what I'm doing. And it does help to know all of these things ahead of time before you play a piece of music. This is actually how I learned to do this, was having to sight read forced me to be like, okay, well, how do I get better at this? Because, I have to do this sometimes. I better work on it a whole lot so that I can make it a little easier. And this was one thing that was super simple, super easy. If I could just remember to do it, that really helps a lot. So let's go through the list and talk about each thing specifically. All right, let's go through the list. We're going to talk about the first few all together. So that's time signatures, key changes, key signatures, meter changes. Not necessarily in that order, doesn't really matter, but stuff that you want to know, right? The big changes in the music, right? You'll see these in the notation too, and they'll be fairly noticeable. You'll see key changes, meter changes, and the time signature and key signature at the beginning of the music. These are the big ones, right? You want to know if you're going from B major and you have to start reading in D flat major in the next page. You want to know sort of ahead of time, okay, I got to get ready for that key change. That's going to be a big reading change at least, right? You're going to see all these sharps that now are flats and all of that stuff, right? Same thing with meter changes. You want to get ready for the feel change, right? If you're reading something in 4/4 and it changes to 7/8, or it has a bar of 7/8 in the middle, you want to be ready for that so you can be on top of it, because if you're not, once you get to that 7/8 measure, it might not sound very good because you're not ready for it, right? You're not prepared for that really big change in groove right there. Same thing with any other meter changes, right? If you're playing a 3/4 and it immediately changes to 6/8 or 4/4 or something, right? You want to know ahead of time so that you can prepare and properly play that meter change so that it sounds correct, rather than, oh, right, I forgot, I have to add a beat here. Okay, here it is. Oh, now we're going, right? Because a lot of this stuff, especially the rhythm stuff, if you don't prepare ahead of time, you're going to get there and it's just going to sound awkward because you're not going to be playing it correctly, because some things are going to be slightly shorter or slightly longer than they need to be, when in reality they should be all even. Next one is repeated stuff. This is how I phrase it to my students. I tell them to look for repeat signs, right? Bar and then the 2 dots, repeat signs, or da capos, del segnos, any other repeat markings that tell you where to go in the music. Hopefully you don't have any of those, because if you're playing music that has page turns and you have a del segno or a del capo, they can be pretty brutal to have to flip a bunch of pages all at once if you're not ready. So definitely del segnos if you don't know where the segno is that you're going back to. That can be really hard to flip to the right page when you don't know where those are. So you want to be ready if your piece of music has that, so that you can know, okay, when I get to the end, I'm going to go back to the top and play it all again, right? Or once we get here, we're going to go from the top then to the coda, or you're looking for repeated sections, sort of the general form of the music, right? I include with this, when I ask my students to go through this list, is also look for repeated material if you have time. Are there any ideas musically that come back later in the piece or that you see again, right? Is there a chorus in the music that you see coming back and that you have to play again, or an A section that plays again, or a B section that plays again? Get a general idea for the form. You don't have to do a full formal analysis, because if you have 5 minutes before a rehearsal, you're not going to have time, but flip through it really quickly and get a general sense of how the music goes. What's the song structure? What's the structure of the music like? Get a sense of that, just so that you can know as you're playing it, you get back to this chorus and you're like, oh, right, yeah, I've played this before. I know what this section is. And make you feel a little more comfortable as you read it, so that you sort of know what to look for when stuff comes up. Next thing is look for familiar chord progressions or familiar patterns in music. This one can be pretty useful if you've played a fair amount of music, or if you only know a few chord progressions, right? So if you're playing a piece of music that you've never seen before, but the chord progression is the same as another piece of music that you know, it'll help you feel a little bit more comfortable and feel like you know what you're doing, even though it's a new piece of music, right? So as you play through it, you'll be like, oh, right, I know this chord progression already. I know the sort of finger patterns that go along with this chord progression. Or I know the strumming patterns that are often used. I know where to shift my hands and everything as you're playing it. Just gives you a little bit more comfort as you're playing it. You know what notes are in the chords, you know extensions that are added on. You just get a better idea of what the music is like, and relate it back to something you already know, so that you don't feel like you're reading it cold, right? You don't feel like you're reading it without any context at all, because that can be kind of scary if you've had to read something that's completely a different context and completely different musical language than anything you've ever seen before. Also, as you're looking through for chord progressions or whatever, if the chord progressions are notated, you have actual chord symbols, great. If not, you might have to read and get quick at reading chords, right? As reading what notes make up a chord, or what chord is being played, even though the notes are there but the chord symbol isn't. That can help a lot. Same thing with looking at accidentals, right? Because those can kind of throw you off if you're not ready to start reading this new accidental thing. You're like, okay, I wasn't ready to be playing an F sharp in this measure or a G sharp in this measure. But if you know, okay, this is this chord, this is where the music's going generally, it can help you sort of prepare for it so that you're ready to play it when you have to. Last thing I do, and I'm not sure if I know a whole lot of players that do this or a whole lot of musicians that do this, but I like to look for what sections are easy or difficult. And I try and make it a conscious effort to be looking at something and say, yes, this will be really easy. Yes, this will be difficult, rather than sort of try and do it intuitively. I know a lot of people that will do this intuitively, but I really want to make it a conscious thing of, yes, this is going to be hard, or yes, this is going to be difficult. Because if you're playing a piece of music that's super easy all the way through, you might get a little comfortable, and then you have this section that is kind of difficult, but you could play if you knew it was coming up. That section comes up and you kind of just play it horribly, and it's just kind of a train wreck or a mess or whatever, and then you're like, I could have gotten that section if I knew it was there, right? That's why I do it, is so that I know, okay, this thing's gonna be easy, this thing's gonna be hard. I can prepare for it as I'm playing. I'm like, okay, we're almost at the hard section. Great, we're here. Bam, I got it. Okay, now we're back to the easy stuff. It can help a lot to know and get a sense, sort of a self-awareness of your own playing when you're looking at stuff, to be like, yes, this will be easy to sight read. No, this won't be easy to sight read. It can really help you sort of be a little bit more aware when you're sight reading, so you can sort of judge your own sight reading abilities before you have to start playing. Right, I played Mamma Mia for a middle school theater program a while ago, middle school, high school theater program, and I was helping music direct it, and right before I had to play the show or come for the first rehearsal and do auditions, right, which is basically all the well-known songs of the show, I looked through the music and I would label on a Post-it note, H, hard, M, medium, E for easy, and I would label them and stick a Post-it note in the book, or write it down on a Post-it note on a list, so that I could know, okay, this song's hard, this song's easy, this song's kind of in the middle. And some of them I didn't have to read through, and I felt comfortable just walking into the rehearsal, that being the first time I play it, because I'd looked through it already and I knew that it would be an easy thing to play. Or if you're playing something like a church gig or auditions, you're called to do play for auditions, look through the music, make sure there are parts that, if they're difficult, you'll know what to do and you'll know how to play them. It can also give you a little head start in learning them if you have 5 to 10 minutes before a rehearsal, right? If there's some difficult rhythm, you can sort of tap it out in your hands, or you can even play it on piano if they allow you to do that, or if you're not bothering anybody, right? You can sort of prepare mentally, like, okay, this is how I'm going to get through this is what I'm going to do here, so that you know ahead of time, this section, I'm going to be able to play it. And I also think it makes you a lot more comfortable seeing sections that you know will be easy. Now, the first time you do this, you might not have that self-awareness of this section is easy, this section is hard. Fine, but just do it more. You'll get better at it the more you practice it. But knowing this section will be easy, this section will be hard, gives you much, much more confidence, gives me a lot more confidence, and I hope it gives you more confidence in your playing, because you'll know, okay, yeah, I know where I'm at. I know whether or not this will be an easy thing to play. I know what tempo I need to put it at to make it easy. A lot of stuff like that can just make you feel a lot more comfortable sight reading, because I think sight reading can, if you don't practice it and you don't know how to do it, can be really terrifying, because it's like, oh god, I gotta be able to play this music that I've never seen before, I don't know what to do, and you kind of just freak out and you end up playing it poorly, even if it is an easy piece, because you're not used to all of the skills that are sort of non-musical that have to do with being able to sight read. All of the skills that have to do with sight reading, like specifically, that could help, but you're not used to doing them if you're not used to having to sight read and you haven't practiced it a whole lot. So I sort of try and go through this list in my head before I see a piece. I'll be like, okay, key signature, time signature, let's see, meter changes, key changes, great, let's see, repeats, fantastic, da capos, the same, no, okay, let's see, what's the general form, okay, flip through the pages, blah, 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 okay, great, any funky accidentals, any funky chord changes? Oh, okay, we got that chord. All right, what's going to be easy about it? What's going to be hard? And right, you can kind of do it pretty quickly, just like that, as you flip through it. Just keep that list in your head as you go through it. And sometimes you can get it down to about 2 minutes of flipping through it. So it's perfect for rehearsal if you have 2 minutes before you have to rehearse, to check through the music like that, because then you're so much more ready, or so much more prepared when you have to play with these other people hearing you. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something about music. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.